Hello and good evening, mighty viewers. Yes, we are back with Living the Core series, and this is a beautiful series where I'm trying to interview people who are living their core in their life's work. Now, why is it important for us to know what our core is and to live from it? Because that is a source of great joy, not just for us in our own evolution, but it also kind of helps us in giving back to the society, in contributing enormously through our life's work to the society. And today we have Ram with us, who is a fellow coach with me in Coaching with Depth that we are doing together. And Ram is somebody who, I may burst out laughing just introducing Ram and connecting with him throughout the series because, as you can see down, he has a beautiful sense of humor. He is a coach and he's also a musician. Yes, he not only plays mridangam but he also trains people on mridangam, and he is also learning drupad on the music front. And on the coach front, Ram is an amazing coach, a leadership coach. He helps people, leaders, bring their best out. He helps individuals at large bring their potential to their fullest. And this is what Ram has been doing for the last 2.5, 3 years. Before that, Ram has 16 years of corporate experience. Yes, he's a gold medalist in engineering, and after that, he pursued his career and in the corporate. And he kind of, before he quit his job in 2017, he was the senior vice president at WNS Global Services. And his calling for helping people, or kind of connecting to people and helping them bring their true potential out, is what he's left his job for, and to pursue his music, which is his passion, and he is doing that full time. Let's hear more from Ram. Ram, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Leela. Really happy to be here. Thank you so much for that introduction also. Thank you.
Absolutely. And you will see as we explore more of who Ram is. Ram helps individuals, of course, in the coaching front, but on a personal level to fulfill his responsibility as a social individual. He does a lot of parenting workshops along with a fellow coach called Shraddha. She'll also be interviewed very soon. And he also takes part in a lot of integral education activities. And he's somebody who has already done a lot of beyond schooling exercises, and I'm sure Ram is going to share these as we interview him.
Sure.
Ram,
Sure.
over to
Yes.
you, and please bring share us with us your core. the, they're running below on the scroll, so let's
Yeah.
start it with lightheartedness. Ram, so how do you live your lightheartedness in your life?
So, Leela, so basically, I think lightheartedness to me is like being optimistic always, being cheerful, being hopeful. So obviously, you need to be serious, you need to be caring, you need to do all of that, but there needs to be a sense of lightness, sense of optimism. So even when times are stressful, when you're anxious, like maybe the present time, it's possible to find moments of joy, to and be cheerful. And when we do that, it really helps us because then we stop thinking about all the difficulties that come, and that doesn't clog our mind. We are able to, so in a sort of a way, bring our best thing out. That's with like our own self. But then when we are light-hearted and we make the environment light, then people around us also kind of collaborate with us that way, and they also feel much more energetic and all of that. So yeah, I mean, that I guess is like, and I think coaching with depth, obviously, like you mentioned, has been like a fabulous course. I mean, heartfelt gratitude to Arul, who runs the course, and it's a amazing person. I mean, there's been so much of shift that has happened in my life because of him, and obviously to all of you in the course. So you know what has happened in the course. So yeah, yeah. So
We had
lightheartedness
this
is something that has been, yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah, we
Leela. Yeah.
had this retreat for 3 days, and Ram and his stand-up comedian was like, he's spot on. He's like, he just doesn't. I mean, he's so brilliant with his liners and the way he brings on his humor. It's simply amazing. Hey Ram, if I were to ask you, okay, because you also are a drummer, and if I were to ask you to connect your drumming with your lightheartedness, कुछ दिमाग में आता है? Anything that you would want to express?
Drumming with lightheartedness. So there is this art form called konnakol, basically, which is vocal percussion. So whatever we play on the drum, or on the mridangam, which I play, which is a South Indian classical drum, you can actually try and say it vocally. So maybe I'll just try. So since light-heartedness is also associated with laughter, being happy, etc., I'll just try something. So ha ha, dinna takata titaka jono, ha ha, dinna takata titaka jono, ha 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 ha, dinna takata titaka jono, ha 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 ha, dinna takata titaka jono, ha 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 ha, dinna 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 ha 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 ha, 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 ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha.
Super.
Thank
Wow.
you, thank you.
So we saw one bit of Ram as a drummer and as a musician, but there's a lot of other angles to who Ram is and how he lives his core. Ram, how do you bring in synchrony? Because synchrony is something that we have seen it very closely in you, but for the benefit of our viewers, if you were to bring in synchrony, how is it that works with you, Ram?
Sure. So the synchrony, according to me, has two aspects. And again, one of the things I need to really thank before mentioning this is again the coaching with depth course, where I had an opportunity to actually discover my course sitting with a lot of people who participated in the course. So I almost did it with everybody, this activity, in order to discover my own core. And I got like fresh facets from so many people. And this aspect actually came out beautifully from Rama, whom you interviewed a couple of weeks back. So the synchrony aspect is, it's like an amalgamation of harmony and synthesis. So what's that? It's about getting different elements into harmony, and then you bring all of those elements together, all those elements that are in harmony. So what is bringing elements into harmony when it comes to individuals? Like who we are or what we are capable of often gets hidden behind our, let's say, physical, vital, mental conditioning, etc. So, as an individual, we may need to do some really serious work to really unearth who we are or discover who we are to bring it forward. When we do that and when we're in touch with who we are, we really live in harmony with ourselves. So, that kind of is aligned with my life purpose also, which is basically to help people realize their potential. Now, in this context, if I take synchrony, for example, if we take an example from nature, let's say a river is flowing, right? Now, a river, maybe it starts off as a very small stream, but then as it grows, maybe it picks up steam and then it may later break up into different small streams. They may all flow individually. They may nourish, human life, animal life, plant life on the way. They may nourish many lives on the way. And finally, it may, distribute itself and finally it may all congregate together as one synchronous amalgamation. So in a way, all of these streams are happily, harmoniously existing and then they also come together to form something that's basically larger. So the way I see this synchrony is in bringing about things in certain combinations, making things in harmony and then bringing them into certain combinations and discovering that something much larger or something else is possible. Now, how do I bring this in your work to your question? So, if I could give example from the work I do with corporate, so I run this venture called Business Clinic that helps CXOs, business leaders solve specific problems. In that, what happens is, and in the coaching work I do with corporate, organizations are comprising of different individuals and different functions. Now we get to work with individuals, so you'll have to bring them into harmony with their own work. So that they are very happy doing their work, etc. And then there are so many individuals or functions that are then in harmony with themselves. Then you bring all of them together as a collective, so that the whole organization starts working in a synchronous manner to achieve something that's much larger as an objective. So it's pretty much like the river, if you say, these are streams that are by themselves running, doing things, and then kind of bring them together collectively to do something larger. That's how I would say, this pans out.
That's what you do on the stage, and you bring that in your coaching and your offerings also, right, Ram? Because
Yeah,
as a
exactly.
mridangam player, yeah, you play
Definitely,
with, yeah,
especially
yeah,
in
go
a
ahead.
classical music concert, what happens is that when we come into a concert, often we don't know what so basically there will be a lead singer or a lead player, then there will be some melodic instrument like a violin playing, and then let's say I'm playing the percussion mridangam, and then there are some other percussion artists, let's say, with me. Typically what happens is that the person who is singing, the artist who is singing or playing the main melody, this thing, they themselves may not have planned what they're going to do, or even if they plan, sometimes they just come, they change, they may not share with you in advance. So it's almost like in that moment, you sense what is the audience like, what is the environment like, what do you want to do, how are you conditioned at that environment, etc. then you try to bring something that's in harmony, right? And then you work together as a team. So each person is trying to keep the other person, in harmony, and then we all collectively join together as a whole to produce something that's like really good. And in a, let's say, a 2 hour 3 hour concert, there'll be at least some moments where you'll really see something great happening when the team comes together. If not the entire time duration, at least for a few moments, there will be these moments which are like really beautiful and you'll cherish them. So it's like that. Yeah.
And that's exactly what you do with leaders and in leadership coaching as well, right? You kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
really bring in what's the best a tone of a leader and what's their best strengths and kind of play them out in their own areas very beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Ram. Okay, moving forward, Ram, we spoke about synchrony and lightheartedness. What is meticulousness? It's so interesting to see a word called meticulousness in your core. What is it?
Yeah, so basically, I would say this is a combination of detail orientation, and this is about seeing the nuances, right? So, detail orientation plus an element of nuance. And while it forms a key component of the work I do in coaching, etc., I can also cite an example from the music aspect. So one of the things I do with music is that I teach music to children, and actually people from the age group of, let's say, 2 to 3 years onwards, still around 60 plus. One of the so I've been also working with differently abled children, autistic kids, people who have some kind of challenge in, let's say, the development, you can say. And then so working with them through music and trying to see if those challenges can be removed, etc. So there is this. I'll take this case of one student who I started working with around 2 years back. And when we started working with this child's an autistic child, and when we started working, he wouldn't be able to speak properly, uh, also not be able to move the hands. So now playing the instrument involves a lot of nuances and details in terms of what syllables we utter. Like if you saw what I uttered earlier, even though it was simple, it has different consonants, different vowels combining with it, and all of that stuff. Similarly, when we play it on the mridangam, there are different kinds of movements. So you move your hand, there are gross movements. There are also finer movements with the fingers when you play any musical instrument. So it needs a deeper understanding or a detailed understanding of what all are the movements involved, what goes on within the other person, and then find out where is it that a specific challenge is coming, for example. So I've been able to in a sense work with this kid, for example, one of the examples, and then try to bring out see where the challenges lie, try to help him overcome the challenge. And in a year's time he was actually able to play like a 10-minute percussion solo like any other child would do. I mean, other than probably, let's say, some amount of rigidity in the way he's playing, you wouldn't be able to really say that this is a child which is autistic. And the best
Wow.
part is the child is also very keen, and speech also improved. Like for example, we tried this konakol thing with him a lot. We would take up syllables that are difficult, so we would go in a step by step manner as to slowly increase the difficulty, so that eventually you can bring him into a flow. So he was able to say the whole stuff, the whole 10 minutes solo he was actually able to say. And that in fact gives a lot of joy and satisfaction to both him as well as me, because see, what generally happens in the society is that when people think that you have a disability or something, they generally don't connect that easily, right? Especially, let's say, when you're not able to speak or when you're not able to hear, people generally, it's like it becomes like a wall, right? I mean, people are not able to communicate to you properly, etc., so they won't come and talk to you, etc. So the moment you can enable somebody's speech or hearing or any of the senses, right, the moment you can work and enable that, they start interacting more with the society. They feel really happy. They feel that now they are part of the family, the surroundings, etc. Family obviously will give them a lot of love, but even then, like when they are able to participate in activities, when they are able to communicate, etc., it becomes much more so it brings them a lot of joy. Such challenges when
Confident.
removed come to the potential, etc. So it's a matter of joy for both. Maybe basically the meticulousness is like in basically seeing what is it. It's not about teaching mridangam or teaching vocal alone, right? So but actually going and seeing, so what is this individual, right, at the core. How do I teach him, right? I mean, as in like for example, it can even be like if he has a mridangam and I have a mridangam and I'm teaching. I've seen cases where, let's say for example, when I play and the kid plays, then he won't play. But when I go and play on his instrument, right when he's seeing, he will see it better. So there will be so much of noise that will be coming in terms of data from the other person, right? So much data will come. You'll have to filter through all this and see, okay, so where are the challenges, where are the opportunities, how can you enable this person to do what this person wants. So maybe that's probably would be like one example of how meticulousness gets manifested in
So
daily life.
skillful, Ram, so skillful. I was just listening to this as in an Upanishad where it says that a guru is somebody, who actually senses what, what is the limitation and how, if that is enabled, the shishya flows. So that is what I'm seeing in you, getting
Yeah.
to the spot and actually sensing it and helping them bang on what could lead them to the next level. Beautiful. Hey, Ram, if I were to ask you if you have any tone, which, because meticulousness is, it's not very easy also for people to understand, right? But if you were to bring it in a musical language, you've already explained it so well, and we are connecting so deeply to it. But if you can bring it in a vocal percussion way, how would you do it?
So, so let's just take, let's say, maybe some lesson that is fairly complicated for people to say. For example, something like mm, Junatakatam, Tarikataka, Tarikinakataka, Tarikataka, Junatakatam, Tarikataka, Junataka, Taritaka, Junataka, Taritaka, Junatakatam, Tarikataka, Tarikinakataka, Tarikataka, Junatakatam, Tarikataka, Junataka, Taritaka, Junataka, Taritaka, Junatakatam, Tarikataka, Tarikinakataka, Tarikataka, Junatakatam, Tarikataka, Junataka, Taritaka, Junatakatam, Tarikataka, Junataka, Taritaka, Junatakatam, Tarikataka, Junataka, Taritaka, Taritaka, Junataka, Taritaka, Taritaka, Junataka, Detam. So if you see here, there are different syllables like Jonutakata, Tarikita taka, tarikina, kita taka, taka, tarikita taka. Some are repeating, but there is so much of variation, etc. That all has to be brought together. And then let's say you have to also say it in sync, then keep pace. So what we do when we do is we just keep pace with the tal. We just basically, it's a 8-beat cycle. So we are just keeping time, measuring time in terms of 8 beats here. So that's what I was trying to do with my hand. So you have to stay in rhythm, you have to say that, you have to say these syllables. At the same time, you have to say it in a way that it flows. So there is so much of detailed work that's involved, nuances, and shouldn't get the syllables wrong also. So maybe I thought this would be one example
A
of.
beautiful, Hiram. Really, it's a melody for all our listeners. Hey, we saw empathy coming in, okay? In the example that you shared with this child, we saw so much of empathy coming in, okay? And I mean, definitely you can say a word or two about empathy, but what is really making me curious is the persistence in you. Like, I have seen you being persistent in whatever you pursue, but how is it landing so that the viewers actually get to sense your persistence?
Yeah. So, like you said, empathy obviously is, you need to have empathy. Otherwise, you can't do this, right? You need to have empathy for the other person. Basically, understand, appreciate what the other person is feeling. Sometimes, like, it's not just about the words the other person is uttering, right? It's about actually going and being in the other person's shoes, feeling what that person would be feeling without getting yourself down. It can also happen that, the challenges the other person feels, it should really absorb. So, it's almost like two layers, right? One is this solid connection you have with the other person. On the second layer, the surface layer, all these feelings and emotions are coming. So if you kind of hook on to this layer and you get it inside you, then obviously you get impacted, you get depleted with energy. So maintain the connection, and then basically this emotional understanding, sensing the other person's feelings, emotions, etc., can still keep happening without getting yourself down. So yeah, definitely empathy, whether it be music, whether it be classes, whether it be, let's say, coaching. Coaching, like empathy is like one of the foundations of coaching. So yeah, definitely. In terms of perseverance, so when you ask, uh, one of the examples I can think of immediately when you ask this, probably two examples. One is in the past. So what happened was, I had been wanting to learn mridangam for a long, long time. Okay, so when I was a kid, so we weren't doing very well financially. So dad was the only breadwinner, and then whatever he used to earn was just enough for the family to kind of kind of live through and all of that stuff. So maybe because of that reason or whatever, whenever I used to ask him that I want to learn mridangam, somehow I picked up a fascination for mridangam and rhythm. So dad would always say, no, no, focus on the studies. You'll have to go get a job eventually, and if you go into music, you'll get distracted. I'm not sure how much music pays and all of that stuff, etc. So this was, I think, right when I was like a kid, like 4-year-old or 5-year-old or something like that. I've been asking him, pestering him since then. But ultimately, he consented only when I was in my 10th grade. Like it's like solid, like 15 years, 10 years, 10, 11 years of, chasing him, saying that I'll not let this affect my studies. I'll really want to do this, etc. Finally, maybe he was convinced at one point and he agreed. So maybe this is one example of basically persisting with what you want to do, manifesting. The other example I can give you, a more recent example, is that see these instruments that we play on, classical music usually, they're all made using animal parts, like animal skin, right? The basic surface on which we play is animal skin. So mridangam, for example, uses skin from cow, buffalo, and goat. And for a long time, it used to really bother me that why can't there be an alternative, etc. So thankfully, a few years back, around 5 6 years back, I came into touch with this scientist from Bangalore called Dr. Varadarangan. He's a PhD from IIT Madras, and he used to work as a head of a research unit in a company. And he basically was a singer. And when he was he's a vegan. When he was giving a concert, he saw that he was a vegan, and then but in his own concert there were instruments that had animal parts, like the animal skin. So he started doing a lot of research and started finding out an alternative. And it's not very easy because in the Indian instruments, what happens is there is this thing called the black patch in the center. Without going to much details, that is what gives it all the harmonic properties, like all the sound, like chang, and all the sounds you hear comes from that. So that is very difficult to bond on any material except for skin. So a lot of people have tried this in the past, but they have not been successful. However, Dr. Vardharangan, because of his zeal and all of that and his resolve, in fact, maybe persistence is also there in his core, which is what I'm saying. So maybe that got both of us together. So he really came up with the first version of the alternative. And I was like really motivated when I heard about it, and I went, met him, went to Bangalore, met him, bought the instruments from him. Gem of a person. And from then on, whatever I say, I'll keep giving him feedback saying, can we improve this? Can we improve this? Can we do this? Let's just get the sound even more better. Let's just get it closer to the conventional mridangam we use, etc. And he has literally been like, never says no. He's been trying his level best to work, been trying to work through all of this. So I would say that is persistence, because across the years, we've been steadily doing this. And initially, artists would say, you know what, this is not the usual mridangam. We won't take this. What is this synthetic material and all. But from that, we are actually seeing a lot of change. Now, a lot of people are starting to adopt. I wouldn't say a lot. In Bangalore, many, maybe in Chennai also a few. But we are seeing but we're seeing the change happen. So yeah, we'll persist.
So
Change will happen eventually. So maybe this could be another
beautiful.
example of persistence. That's a good example.
Yeah. And you also don't give up on your coaches, right? I've seen that myself.
No, no,
You
never,
schedule
never.
something. You schedule something with Ram, and till it gets done, he will not let go of it. He's like on it. And also he brings in so much of empathy, and he gives you so much of space around to be that. So that is what makes us go back to Ram. And beautiful, Ram, beautiful. So Ram, if you were to bring in learning, we already saw how much you are curious to learn, and to grow and to also contribute. But how would you want to put it in your words?
Learning has been like a constant, right? For everybody, I think we all learn. So this
True.
is more about like learning immersively. So for example, if I take my own context in music itself, like, so for example, if I learn mridangam, it's not that I restrict myself to only one school, my school or something, right? I try and once you, let's say, get the fundamentals right, you come up to a certain level, you listen to so many others, big artists playing, etc. You try to absorb it. Then you not only restrict yourself to your instrument, you try to see adjacent instruments, right? Like tawil is another percussion instrument, tabla is another one, drum is another one, so western drum. So absorbing from all of this, that's on the music side. On the coaching side, for example, so ultimately my aim would be to just help people realize their potential. Now it could be through, let's say, so the coaching program I did basically also has a few counseling methodologies embedded. So it could be through a bit of counseling, it could be through coaching, it could be through healing. And I'm kind of trying to learn all of these methodologies and try to go in depth and practice those. So whoever is the beneficiary in front of you, right? So whatever works for that beneficiary, basically then bringing into either one of these methodologies or a combination of these methodologies, and then applying it. So obviously before the application part there's a huge learning part involved, and while applying also you're trying to learn about the other person, right, as to what's working, what's not working, what does the other person need, etc. So maybe these are a few examples I would say where learning is like
It actually is reflecting a lot of your synchrony, meticulousness, empathy. Again, coming in while you are sharing your learning. So very well said, Ram. Very beautiful.
yeah, in a way it's like somehow like when you're trying to help people live their potential, and when you're yourself trying to realize your potential, etc. I think like it all kinds of comes together. You have to be in harmony with your core, let's say, for example, for one, or you have to be in harmony with what you're doing in life, synchronously working with others, all these kind of, then meticulously looking at things. So all of these kind of, it's almost like, it's all like leading to probably the same thing, like flowing together,
That's exactly. And as Ram was very rightly saying, once you discover your core and you're able to consciously bring this alive in your life's work, that's when, you develop your muscle around it. So it's like Ram is actually going deep on synchrony. Like every time you work on it, Ram, you hit a different notch, right? You are kind of going
yeah.
deep on the subject, on it yourself. So that's the beauty of it. And we both help people discover their course, and if you are really interested to know what is your core and how you can bring it alive, so please feel free to get in touch with Ram, me, or any of our other coaches from Coaching with Depth. We're very glad to help you around discovering your core. And something that moved me beautifully when I was reading Ram's core was sufficiency. And it is a lot more deeper, Ram. So, would you want to enlighten us on what sufficiency means to it? As a word itself, it's so fulfilling. So, what does it
Yeah,
feel
so sufficiency to me would be like, let's say, if you have to put it in maybe more simpler terms, maybe resourcefulness, or a condition where you don't feel limited in any way. It's like, like, yeah, I'm sufficient. Whatever I need, I will get it. I will make sure I'll somehow get it, etc. If I could give you an example, right through my career, for example, in the corporate career that I had, I've been in positions where resources have been really, really scarce. I mean, by scarce, I really mean it. Like, for example, in our job, we usually think that resources are scarce, but then this is positions where, like, for example, in my last job, we had to start a business unit from scratch and grow it. And this was one of the smallest business units, right? We were not existing when we started almost for. And then there were two business units which were large. And typically in corporates, what happens, depending on the size of the business unit, etc., you get more resources, right? I mean, you get the company the money, so you get more resources that you want, etc., right? So working even in those conditions, right, where you have to grow, but then you need resources to grow, and then but you will get the resources only when you grow and show that you can give growth. So it's almost like a chicken and egg situation, and I'm sure a lot of people face this. So but I've been like almost facing the situation like a constant throughout my career, I would say, even in the corporate world. That is one example I would give. Like when I started off my career in R&D, let's say chip design, R&D, etc. They're also very similar. We used to work in literally like the newest technologies, like chip design technologies that were two generations ahead, etc. We would have to work on that and then bring that in so that teams can then start working on that. But but all these companies are commercial companies, right? So the budgets for R&D wouldn't be the kind of budget you really need to kind of build tools, because existing tools wouldn't kind of be allow you to work on newer technologies, etc. So this has almost been like a constant. So if I take it to the coaching aspect, for example, coaching, everybody has their own strengths. Everybody has the potential in them to realize what they want to do, right? So when we bring this outlook that you have to just enable that to happen. So whatever is, let's say, in terms of their conditioning or beliefs or whatever challenge they are facing that is not helping them see the potential in them, you have to, depending on the pace that the person can take it or whatever, right, you have to work with them and to your best capability try to uncover that and help them realize that they can really do it sufficiently. It's not that they need to wait for so many resources to come from outside, or somebody to give them money, or any kind of resource that you need, or somebody to give them a lot of advice or help, etc. So basically it's about that. So having being resourceful, innovatively combining whatever resources you have, and also in a way realizing that everything is interconnected in a way. So it's not just about you not having the resources, right? I mean, you could actually work with other people in the process. So almost like like the way we explore, right, in our course also with Arul
being
and all that,
sufficient?
the
Yeah,
idea, right, it's like you we may personally think this is my idea, I want to birth it, etc.
true,
But
true, true,
so
true.
many people who are working directly on
Exactly.
that
And
idea or around that. So when you come
you
together,
may
you
be
can pull it and work. Yeah.
very beautiful, Ram. Very truly said. Yeah. So, Ram, to close off, okay, if you were to give one message to our viewers, if you were to share one positive message so that they kind of live with it and they sink in it, what would it be?
Uh, I mean, everybody can truly live and manifest with the potential. I mean, whatever be the situation, whatever be the pandemic, whatever be the challenges, may be temporary. So, if they can just, like you said, beautifully summarize about the core, if they can truly understand who they are and help is available. So, they should seek out help. If they can truly understand who they are, either by themselves or with the help of somebody who can help them understand, it life becomes so much more joyful, so much more peaceful, so much more calmer. I'd say that people should definitely, we may always be busy, the world around us will always be buzzing, people will always be busy, etc. But if we can spend some time thinking about who we are, why we are here, etc., maybe we may not get the answers immediately, but eventually we may get. And even if we are able to find a few fractals of that core here and there, and if you are able to connect to it every day, aspire to live that core, it really helps live a very joyful life. So that's all. Maybe
Beautiful.
that's what I would say.
So, as viewers, as Ram is saying, let's discover what our core is and live it in our life's work. So, it is not only going to give us a lot of joy, but yes, we are going to really touch a lot more people and contribute and bring our best to the world. And somewhere, don't you think, Ram, that's living our purpose as well when you live your core?
You definitely, because I mean, it eventually leads to your purpose only, right? As in,
Exactly.
when you are the potential, the whatever you want to do, right? That totally gets enabled when you are able to get in touch with who you really are. Otherwise, I mean, it just clouds you, right? The way some kind of a conditioning, you may think that physically you are not able to do certain things. Like when people come and play in class, right? I mean, there are certain ways they are conditioned. They may have heard a certain kind of music, so they may be comfortable with certain kind of patterns. Some other patterns are like very difficult. So from starting from here to in real life having certain beliefs that maybe they have served you in a certain stage of your life before, but now in the environment that you are in, those beliefs aren't serving you, right? That mental
Exactly.
conditioning
To
or
really let go
some
of
kind
it
of fear.
and to create new belief systems
So
is
basically,
what exactly. So, you saw
yeah,
in this
basically, yeah.
beautiful.
So
Yes, Ram.
go ahead, Leela. No, no, go
No,
ahead,
no,
Leela. Yeah.
basically complete kar do, yaar.
No,
Okay.
what I'm saying is, you said this perfectly. Like when you are able to get in touch with your core, you can live your purpose more and more. You can live a really joyful life every day. Every moment is so blissful. Every moment when you get in touch with your core, it really propels you. It's like, rather than sometimes we may mistake what is coming in our mind as what is core, right? And then after a few years, you figure out, yeah, this was like looking nice 2 years back, but now I am like, it doesn't gel well with me, etc. But when you truly find out what's the core, it's like a lifelong thing, right? And we may find out
Exactly.
elements, but as we go forward, we may find out more elements. So once we start connecting all those together, it's really a joyous journey.
So this is, you see the energy in Ram. This is exactly what you connect to when you live with your core. So thank you so much, Ram. It was a pleasure for us. But before we end, just to close this, do you have a vocal percussion that you would want to play with us? Anything that comes to your mind as a closing note?
Sure. So this was a lesson. This is a lesson composed by a great Tamil maestro. Tamil is again a percussion instrument called Sri T.R. Subramaniam, and I was trying to teach this to a 6-year-old kid yesterday. Slightly complicated in terms of, but then to listen it's simple. So also talks about sufficiency, right? So the 6-year-old kid could do this in one class. So could handle this, and this is like in a gate of three, not the usual gate of four we do. So without getting into too much of details, basically it goes like this. Takadinatam, 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 tadiginatum, diginatum, diginatum, kinatum, 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 takitatam, 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 tadinginatum, 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 diginatum, 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 takatam, 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 tadinginatum, 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 tam, 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 tadum, tadinginatum, 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 tatum, tadinginatum, tadum, tadinginatum, tadum, tadinginatum, 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 ta. Maybe
Wow,
just end with this.
super. It reverberated the whole life. Thank you so much, Ram. Thank you so much. This is the master of living, not just on the stage with his, mridangam, but also in his life. helping a lot of individuals as well as organizations. Thank you, Ram, for sharing your core and living it live with us on this Facebook Live. Thank you, viewers. We are going to be back next week again with an amazing persona. And until then, try and connect with your core. And if you need help, do connect with us. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Leela. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, bye. Bye, Leela. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.